Welcome back, and here we are in step 2 to financial freedom. Now, what you have with you so far is you have your money memory. And what I'm going to ask you to do in this step is I'm going to ask you to recall what is your greatest fear. Now, this fear just doesn't have to be about money, because you're going to see very shortly that most of the fears that you have in life are related to this first memory that you have about money. You know, like I've always said and I'm going to say, money is so pervasive. Now, once we've identified what our greatest fear is, I'm going to have you connect that fear with your childhood money memory. And you're going to have to just trust me on this one for a little, because in a very short time you're going to see that this all is going to make perfect sense to you. When you connect your fear with your money memory, we're going to start to create a breakthrough. We are going to break the chain that has kept you from being able to deal with your money today. These seemingly simple exercises, I have to tell you, are the key to removing the obstacles that have kept you from creating money in your life, that have kept you from having what you really want and deserve. If you do these exercises, I'm telling you, you're going to get your act together financially, and you're going to start making loads of money. You're going to start being the person you want to be. All right, so are we ready to do this? Are you ready to continue now and look into your fears and face them head on to see how money and your fears are related? To help you do this, let me ask you some questions about your fears. For instance, are you afraid that you won't ever be able to pay off your credit card debt? Or are you frightened of working till the day you die because you won't be able to sock enough money away for your retirement? Or are you scared of being homeless? How about for you women out there? Are you afraid of what I call the bag lady syndrome, where one day you're going to end up penniless and powerless and be on the streets? How many of you are afraid of that? Or are you afraid that you're never going to be able to fund your children's education, that you're never going to have enough money to send them to school? Are you scared that no one will be able to take care of you when you're old? Or are you afraid that you will never be financially independent from a spouse or from your parents? Are you frightened about your career choices and feel insecure about your earning power? Are you afraid that you'll never be able to pay what you think you're worth? Or are you scared that you'll be fired? Are you just simply afraid that you don't even know how you're going to meet next month's bills? How much fear is truly going through your life when it comes to money? To conquer that fear, to start dealing with it right now, I want you to turn to the chapter in your guidebook called Claim Your Power. And I want you all to take just a few seconds to write down your greatest fear in the section called Fear Exercise. Now, once you've written it down, I want you to proceed to the next exercise in this chapter, which is called Shining Light on Your Past to Heal the Present. In this exercise, I want you to be able to come up with, on your own, the answers to how your money memory, in your opinion, is connected to your greatest fears of life today. I want you to see how they intersect. I want you to see what the connection is. Now, I realize that this might sound challenging to you, but I know you can do it. It just takes a little reflection and a little contemplation. I want you to probe inside yourselves, and the answers will eventually come to you. But I don't want you to be afraid, because if you can't do it, we're going to do it for you when you rejoin us in the seminar. You see, once you've completed both exercises, identifying your fear and how this fear relates to your money memory, you're going to hear how the money memories of the people in the seminar relate to their greatest fears in life today, and you're going to see that connection. And through seeing their connection, if you haven't done it on your own yet, you're going to see how it relates to you. You're going to listen to the examples from the other people, and it's going to shed light on your own situation. So I want you to go do these exercises now. Join me back here when you're ready, and I'll be waiting for you. So how was that for you? Was it a little harder than you thought, or maybe easier? You know, I have to tell you, when I started to do these exercises for myself, it was amazing the things that I discovered. For instance, do you remember in the first tape I told you about my money memory? About my mother telling me that I shouldn't tell my friends that we don't have any money because if they find out, they wouldn't like me? Well, do you know one of my greatest fears in life as I got older was that if people found out who I really was, that they wouldn't like me. That once they got close to me and they discovered who I really was, that they would go, ugh, what a horrible person, and that they would leave. Do you know what kind of fear that created in my life? It kept me totally from having people become intimate with me. Soon as any relationship I was in started to become meaningful, I went, stop, because if they ever found out, they wouldn't like me anymore. Well, when I was able to see that this fear came from a money memory when I was 8 years old, it started to break the chain. It was like, Susie, how ridiculous. You're not that 8-year-old anymore. You're now 20 or 30 or 40 years of age, and people, of course, will like you. So it was very important for me to see the connection between those two. What we're going to do now is to see the connections that the people in the seminar have made from their fears and their money memories and how they relate and how it all relates to you. So, who wants to start? Yes, Linda. Linda, you notice? I shouldn't even ask anymore. Tell us, Linda.
Well, there are 3 levels of catastrophe. The first one is that I'll wind up a bag lady.
You betcha.
The next one is I'll wind up alone without enough money to get by, and no one will come to rescue me.
Yes.
And the third one is I'll live the rest of my life with anxiety about the first 2.
All right. Linda's memory was, for those of you who don't remember, was that her mother would save the grocery money, being able to buy her a dress, and Linda wasn't to tell her father. Father knew about it and never said anything. Linda's fear essentially is that she's going to be a bag lady, that you're never going to have enough. Does anybody, before I point it out, see the connection? Linda, do you yourself see the connection? What is the connection between those two things?
I think for me it was that my father was sort of the ultimate provider and that he really wasn't there to provide what I needed, and so I've always sort of felt that there wasn't anyone there and somehow I couldn't do it myself.
And even if you did do it yourself, even though she saw her mother being able to save money from the groceries to buy you a dress, even though you saw that, you had to live in shame of it and hide it, so it really didn't mean anything, which is why you think your money doesn't mean anything and you're going to end up as a bag lady. Mm-hmm. Did that make sense? Does everybody get that? What just happened here? That's the key here for you, Linda. You had to hide it. It didn't matter. You had to live in shame of it. Nobody recognized it. It wasn't real. So therefore, what you have and you've created yourself isn't real. And when it's not real, it's all going to go away and you're going to end up as a bag lady. That's a very common fear for women, that they're going to end up penniless and powerless and on the street. And what always amazes me is that each one of us have gotten this far. We're not even close to being on the street, but we have that thought.
The interesting thing for me is I really kind of know that 1 and 2 are not realistic fears. The thing that I really should be worried about is the fact that I'm wasting this moment in anxiety over those things which really aren't truly realistic fears.
But you're going to have anxiety because you had a dress that you couldn't even tell anybody about, and you had anxiety over that. Mm-hmm. So you have anxiety about all these things about money that started at such a young age. And you used to wear that dress. How did you feel when you wore that dress?
I didn't feel shame about wearing the dress. I felt proud that my mother loved me enough to make that sacrifice.
And how did you feel about your father when you wore that dress in front of him
Not as good about my
Not as
father.
good about yourself. So you don't feel good about yourself, you don't feel good about the value, and you have anxiety over it, and that anxiety keeps playing out. Right? Bob.
Yeah, Bob's got the same story. He's going to end up homeless. And if not homeless, then maybe living in a funky apartment with a minimum wage job.
And you know, when Bob talks, Bob has a lot of emotion and a lot of things about money, yes?
Yeah.
Right? And what's interesting about Bob here is that if Bob were a woman saying these things right now, Bob would be crying. Right? Would you, Bob?
I cry a lot.
Yeah.
I've been going through a lot of this lately.
And one of the burdens that the men listening to this, that your male counterpart or men have, is that you have to feel like you're strong with money. I can tell you that the clients that come to see me, the men, when the woman gets up and leaves the room to go to the bathroom or something, they break down and they say, I'm so afraid, I don't know what to do. Please help us. I can't act like I'm strong anymore because I don't know. So it's great for you to even be feeling these things. Obviously, your fears come from the divorce that stemmed when you first heard the word. I mean, how old were you when you first heard that?
10.
10. Think about that. Being 10 years old, and it's the first time he ever hears the word is divorce, which is breakup. Now, what people divorce isn't just their love, they divorce their money. Did they go to court?
No.
There was no fight over it?
No.
What happened to your mother?
I stayed with my mom. She got a job.
And she had to work. Was she sad?
I think so.
Yeah. And how about your dad?
He moved a few blocks away. I was still in touch with him a little bit.
But did he thrive?
He did all right.
He did all right.
I wouldn't say thrive. No, he's just a working man. He's
Right.
a steam fitter.
So, you know, we have a situation here where money, love, security, home, everything at a very young age goes. And it's still with you. Bob, do you know that you're more than your money?
No.
No. That's what we're going to find out today, because you are more than your money. The same way that your mother made it, she's still making it, you're going to make it. You are more than your negative balance in your bank account. You are more than that. All right, Jeanette.
Same fear that I've heard articulated, being a bag lady. The sense of impermanence, that what you have is not going to be there when you need it.
Mm-hmm. And so Jeanette had a bike that was stolen, and she felt so guilty over it. So when you were young and you wanted to go ride on that bike, and after it was stolen, what happened? Did you get another one?
Never.
Never.
No, but it was the best present I've ever received.
But think about this. She had a bike. She wanted this bike. This bike gets stolen, and it was not replaced. Jeanette, can you tell me why you would think things wouldn't be here today when you needed them?
Well, it's the sense of, you know, what you have may get taken away. And
Think
the sen-
about that from a bike. Jeanette learned that from a bike. Not only may it be taken away, but it was taken away. Not only was it taken away, it was never replaced. Ever. Why would you think that your money wouldn't be taken away, and if it was taken away, it wouldn't be replaced? Because of the bike. What you don't see is that you have the money today to buy yourself another bike. You don't need mom and dad to buy you a bike today, Jeanette. You can buy yourself a bike. Have you a bike today?
No.
You've never yourself bought a bike
No.
since then. I have to tell you, I think one of the best things for this woman to do, and I'm serious,
It's fine.
I think you should go out and buy yourself a bike and ride it. Because two things will happen there. Not only will Jeanette know that she can buy herself a bike, and the chances are that bike will not be stolen because you're going to be responsible for it now, and you're going to put it in a place that nobody can take it from you. But to remind yourself that you can ride. and that bike can take you anywhere you need to go under your own power. It's not like getting in a car and turning it on and having the engine take you with the gasoline to where you want to go. And if that machine doesn't work, what are you going to do? You need somebody else to fix it. But on your bike, you can get on, and with your own physical power, you can take yourself anywhere you want to go with that bike. And may that bike forever serve as a metaphor that not only can you do it on that bike physically, you can do it with your money and anything else in your life as well. I would go out tomorrow and buy myself a bike. And Diane.
Again, I fear aging without being able to work. I've worked full-time since I was 16, and not having anything. Every time I do seem to get ahead, my car finds out about it, or there's some kind of catastrophe that I have to expend whatever additional money I've accumulated, yet I've always managed to make do.
Mm-hmm. Diane's, and I'm going to ask you to put this together for her in a second, and again, if you can't, I will. But here, Diane's money memory was that her father controlled all of it, right? And you started to steal it, although she kind of used a more gentler word at the time, right? Steal it from him and then treat her friends, very similar to mine. Do you see the connection to why your car breaks down every time you have more money?
Well, what I see is I will do anything to avoid any kind of conflict with money, whether it's emotional or I will not, to this day, I will not open a bank statement. They are completely sealed and in a drawer. I don't keep track. My spending habits have nothing to do with how much I have. I will go out of my way to avoid conflict. That's why I always pick up the check, because I can't stand it when people figure out how much, when they're trying to figure out at the dinner table how much each person owes. I'll just grab it and say I'll get it, and that
Right.
kind of stuff.
Does everybody in this room understand that not dealing with money is dealing with it in one of the most disrespectful ways ever, and that is why your car breaks down or things happen in your life as soon as you get ahead a little bit? So let me go into a little bit more detail with that. We started today by you ripping up a dollar bill. When we ripped up that dollar bill is when we discovered that it wasn't like ripping up any other piece of paper. It made all of you in this room, and I'm sure all of you at home, very uncomfortable to do so. Money is attracted to you because it has a life force in it, just like your friends. Have you ever noticed when you're powerful in life, everything's going great, your friends call you, phones ring off the hook, everybody wants to take you out to dinner and pay for it. The job interviews that you're looking for all come through. Everything is great. But as soon as you become sad or something horrible in your life happens, or so you think, your friends disappear after the first week of consoling you. Nobody wants to take you out to dinner. The job interviews stop, and you're all alone. Have you ever noticed that? Do you? Is that a yes? Money responds to you in the exact same way. When we ripped it up, we felt that way because it has a life force to it. And when you are feeling powerless in your life, money is repelled from you in the same way that your friends are repelled from you eventually when you're powerless. When you're feeling powerful in your own life, powerful about money, it is attracted to you in the same way your friends are. Diane, you have spent your life stealing money to treat your friends, to give it away.
But only from my father.
But only from your father.
For the record, I've never.
Yes. FBI, please come and get Diane. Here she is. We found her finally. But metaphorically speaking, you have spent your life with the memory of stealing money to give it away. You didn't even want it for yourself. And today, how you're stealing from yourself is not opening up your bank statements and looking at them and putting them in a drawer. You think you're keeping those bank statements by keeping those envelopes closed. You have closed the avenue for money to come to you. Which is why, as soon as you get a little, it says, sorry, I don't want to be here. She doesn't like me. She doesn't want to deal with me. I'm out of here. So the best way I can get out of here, her car will break down. Something will happen. And the only reason I know that is that's how it happened to me and all my clients. As soon as I was a waitress at the Buttercup Bakery in Berkeley, California from 73 to 78. Did any of you used to go in there? Do you remember me? I had a ponytail. I was so cute. But anyway, and every time I would get a little bit ahead, meaning $100, my car would break down. And I kept thinking, what does my car know about my money that I don't know, that it wants it? But it wasn't my car, it was me not wanting it. So I probably didn't attend to something in my car that if I had just simply changed the oil a little bit sooner, or whatever it was, wouldn't have happened. The only way that you're going to start to get control and not have this fear that you're going to end up with nothing, or how long you're going to be able to work, is to start handling your money and touching it and dealing with it. What I want you to do is I want you to go home and I want you to open up every single bank statement. I want you to be willing. Or if you can't open up your past ones, I want you to start with your new one that comes. The second it comes, open it up, look at it. When you go out to dinner with your friends, I want you to take the time to figure out who owes what. Because you have got to stop stealing from yourself now to pay for your friends because it's easier because of what they're going to think, because you don't want to deal with money. By not dealing with it, I promise you, you're going to have to deal with it for the rest of your life. Am I making sense to people? You understand how these money memories have a direct effect on how you are? Your father controlled everything, was the first thing you said to me. Is he still controlling you?
No, he's homeless and institutionalized and penniless.
All right, he's homeless, he's institutionalized, and you don't think in his own way those memories aren't controlling you?
Oh, I'm certain.
Of course they are. He is controlling her thoughts. He's controlling her fears. Because on some level, do you not think that that's what could happen to you?
Oh, certainly.
Those memories are controlling you, which is why you don't want to open up the bank statements.
Right.
Because it's the bank statements, it's the money, it's the lack thereof that has institutionalized on some level your father.
That's true.
So if you don't deal with it, the role models will become reality for you. But you have the power within you to stop it. The reason you don't open up the bank statements stems from the memories. There's only one way now to change that, is you hopefully right now have a link between those two and you can see that. If you want to break the chains that are putting you into bondage here, you have to face them. I promise you, if you go home and you open up your bank statement, it is not going to hurt you. Some evil little being is not going to jump on and go, gotcha. You're going to open it, you're going to see their words on a piece of paper, and you're going to see that you are stronger than that paper. And that you're controlling the figures that are on that paper. The figures on that paper are not controlling you. That's what we need to reverse here. Do you all understand that for your own bank statements as well? When you look at those numbers, whatever they read are what you created there. They are not creating you, Bob. Those numbers are not defining you. You define how large they are, how small they are, how well they've been invested, how they're growing. You decide if they're fat or they're skinny or they're not feeling well or they are thriving. They are simply numbers. And in the same way that you had the power today to rip up that dollar bill, you did that. It didn't rip up itself. It would never be able to rip up itself. You have the power to tape it back and use it again. You each have the power to tape your own lives back together and use them again. You do not have to be a ripped up dollar bill for the rest of your life, Diane. You don't. And you're not going to be. But you have to decide that. You have to take that power today. Again, I'm going to ask the question, is this all making sense to all of you? Is it? All right. Pat.
My greatest fear is that I'm not going to have enough money to take care of myself for the rest of my life, health-wise, and that I will have to maybe depend on my children, which is something I don't want to do ever.
Mm-hmm. And why do you think that? Do you not have money?
My mind tells me I have enough money to do all this. It's just my insides that are always
Right. So
have this fear.
physically, you really do have enough money.
I think I do, yes. In my head, realistically, I think I do, but yet I don't.
All right, so let me get this straight.
Emotionally, I don't feel I have it.
Emotionally, you don't.
I
But
don't.
if I were to look at your money as a financial advisor, I would probably say, Pat, you're doing fine.
Mm-hmm.
And you would say to me, Susie, I don't have any money to buy ice cream, however. Wouldn't you?
Probably.
And again, for those of you who need to be reminded, Pat had no money for ice cream when she was growing up. That's what she was told. Now, we all know as a child, we used to love when we would hear those bells of the Good Humor truck come down our streets, and we used to run to get that. Do you remember that? That we would hear those bells and we would come alive and we would run to get them? And you couldn't do that because you didn't have money for ice cream. But you knew that they did, didn't they? Mm-hmm. You knew that they had the money to give you if they wanted to, but they weren't going to give you that money, mm-hmm. didn't you? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What has Pat done with that memory? She's brought it into her own life. She knows she has enough money, but is she going to choose to give it to herself? Maybe not. Because you see, the only way that you give yourself money is through the satisfaction of it. You can't take it with you. When we die, and every one of you in this room and listening to this tape, I promise you are going to die. It's the evolution of life. And when we do, not one of us is going to be able to take a penny with us. So we know we can't take it with us, so the only goodness of money is the satisfaction of what it gives us and others while we have it. But it can't give you any satisfaction because you think you still don't have any money for ice cream. Something that really sparks the heart of a little child, which all of us still have. Here I'm about to be 50. Some of us are older than me. Some of us are younger than me. But we all have the heart of a child still. Do you feel any different than you did when you were 12? Really? No. Really? So what? So I can't touch my toes anymore. So what that I have a few sizes larger in clothes or whatever it is. But I still talk to my stuffed animals. Now, I still, every once in a while, do we not break into a little bit of baby talk when we're talking to our friends, especially the women? Do you ever do that? Or have a friend who does? And it either drives you crazy or it doesn't. But we're all those little babies inside still, and we're going to be till the day that we die. You have to give yourself some ice cream. So in the same way that we have Miss Jeanette here going out to buy a bike. Do you two know each other by any chance?
No, but I can't afford weight-wise to eat all that ice cream.
It's not that I want you then to go out and buy ice cream for you. But you know what you might want to do? And this is what I would like you to do, Pat. I'd like you to pick out an organization of children, underprivileged children, of kids who don't get ice cream. And I want you to go and I want you to buy every single one of those kids an ice cream for lunch one day. I want you to contact the principal of that school, and I want you to tell them that. And I don't care what it costs you. Because when you see that you can do that for others, and that it doesn't affect you, I promise you, you're going to see how much money and true wealth you really have. I'd like you to try that for me. Are you willing to do so? And don't pick out a small school, Pat. I'm serious. Don't limit yourself because you are far grander, and I know, I can feel it, that you have far more than you'll ever need. And when you do that, and when you open up your own floodgates that way, then you're going to feel powerful. And the amount of money that eventually is going to come to you to replace that, you're just going to go, interesting. All right, Miss Pamela.
Well, I'm going to piggyback on Diane. I'll go home and open my bank statements.
Oh, so here we have another case of a woman.
Well, not dealing with it. And I did look at my greatest fear and what my childhood experience was, and they do mesh.
So tell us about that.
Well, living for today and not worrying about tomorrow, but doesn't necessarily mean that you manage it very well.
That's
And
right.
so that's my biggest problem, is not managing.
Right. So think about that. Pamela's saying it was exactly, live for today, tomorrow you will die. And I have to tell you, when it comes to our money, we really want to die. You want to die before you become a bag lady, don't you, Diane? Right? Same true with you, Bob, isn't it? You'd rather be dead than not have enough money to live on. Think about that. You'd rather be dead, gone. Leave this world, those you love, those who love you. You'd rather do that than not have enough money to live on. Is there any more powerful statement that you can make than that one? I don't think so. So it's true that we're all going to die tomorrow. Those tomorrows will come, but don't make it that tomorrow comes sooner than it's supposed to. Because each one of us has a master plan, obviously. We're never going to be able to control when we came and when we went. All right, so don't put yourself in a situation where you want to control that. So, you can live for today. That's true. You should live today fully. But the way you live today fully is dealing with your money today, so tomorrow you'll want to have tomorrow come. Versus, I hope I don't wake up tomorrow. And the way that you deal with your money today is by opening those bank statements, by reconciling your bank accounts, by looking where your money is, by looking at it like a friend, by bringing it closer to you as you would a cherished friend, rather than pushing it away like an enemy. It is not an enemy. The reason that we're here today is because of money. The temperature in this room would not be able to be adjusted because we wouldn't have an air conditioning system. You wouldn't have been able to get here because you didn't have a car, which money purchased for you. You'd be sitting stark naked in front of me because money bought your clothes, and in fact you'd be sitting on the floor because you wouldn't be on chairs that the money purchased. Everything we touch, everything that we see, everything that is around us stems from money to begin with, if you think about it. I'd like you all to look at the dollar bills that you have in front of you that you ripped up. And I want you to see that on the side of the dollar bill that does not have Mr. Washington's face on it, boy, I really destroyed him. I gave him a nose job. Anyway, I want you to all see that there is a pyramid on this dollar bill. Have you ever looked at a dollar? Just spend it, but have you ever really looked at it? I want you to all notice that that dollar with the pyramid on it, the pyramid is an unfinished pyramid. Do you see that? Have you ever noticed that it was unfinished before? Think about it. This pyramid has been on this dollar from the beginning of time of when this was created. That unfinished pyramid represents this, that this money is the start of our foundation. Because a pyramid is very strong. It's built very strong. It will last forever. But it's up to each and every one of us to decide how we are going to finish our own pyramid. It's an unfinished pyramid. For those of you at home, go back to your dollar, look at it, and you will see on the left-hand side of it this unfinished pyramid. And you will notice that on top of it is floating an eye. The people who designed this created that eye to represent spirituality. It represents the third eye, which is located right in the middle of your eyebrows, right above it here, which is known in ancient tradition as the all-seeing eye. It sees with a purity, not with a jadedness. And don't you find that fascinating, that that's on your dollar bill? Now you'll notice that it's not on another bill. It's not on your $5 bill or your $10 bills or your other bills. It's on the $1 bill. Now why is it on a $1 bill and not the others? Because this one is the building block for all the others. You need 1 before you can have 5. You need 5 before you can have 10. And the object of money also is to become one with it. This is on a $1 bill. Right? If you could become one with yourself, one with it, and don't think that this dollar bill isn't preventing you from becoming one with yourself. Of course it is. Diane, on some level, do you not have a part of yourself because of money?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so you don't have a part of yourself because of money. You aren't one. You aren't whole with yourself because of money.
That's true.
Think about that. I'm not asking you to worship money here. That's not what this is about. I'm asking you to worship yourselves. To worship the oneness and the wholeness that all of us want to be. Bob wants to be one with himself. He wants to be able to look in the mirror and like what looks back at him. He wants to be whole with friends, without friends, with money, without memories of his parents divorcing, with memories of his parents divorcing. He wants to be one with himself. Don't all of you want that? And on some level, and please, understand that I'm not putting this on a pedestal, but this is such an integrated part of us. Does one represent just $1 bill, or does one represent what we want to be with our own self? Barbara, what is your greatest fear?
My fear is the same, of being a bag lady, of having no job, no shelter, no food.
Right? And that would make absolutely sense for Barbara, whose memory was, her father did all these things with airplanes and boats. Her mom was supporting the family, but when Barbara went to college, the money wasn't there.
Right.
And it wasn't there when she saw so much of it. If it wasn't there then, why should it ever be there? But again, you're still here today. What's your mother doing today?
She still works.
Works. She's okay, right?
Yep.
Everything's okay. But yet what we're still doing is living in this memory. And I know your strongest memory is the day that you asked your father to pay for college, and he said no.
That's right.
How can that be? How could somebody who loves me, how can somebody who has these planes and these boats and all these boy toys, as I call them, not pay for his most precious toy that he created, his daughter, and sent her to school? But you got through school, didn't you?
Actually, I'm still going through school on my own. It's
And you're
taken me
doing it
years.
on your own.
Yeah.
You'll always do it on your own. And it's a fabulous lesson that we were given the strength to do it on our own.
That's right.
And so you're not going to end up powerless and penniless. You were given a tremendous gift by your father, really rather than denying you. What he gave you was Barbara, you're going to do it on your own, and you're going to do it in spite of him. You're going to do it for yourself, because really that's why we need to do everything. Well, we have to hear from the other side of Barbara, since they're living together. Do you have plans to get married?
We don't know.
No, all right. I won't start fights here, but just out of curiosity. Mark, what is your greatest fear?
That I'm a fraud, shallow, and that I won't be able to escape from that fear.
Yeah. Mark, before I explain it, do you understand why you think that?
Connecting it to my memory of this fear or the shame around wealth or the expression of wealth.
Think about that. Mark is afraid of being a fraud. What was Mark doing when he had his father drop him off a block from the school so he could walk with all the other kids and look like he was part of them? On some level, was he being a fraud? You betcha you were. You know, money goes both ways. You can have too much, you can have too little. Maybe your father was a fraud. Could your father afford the Mercedes that he was driving?
Yeah.
He could, so that was easy. So here your father worked very hard. Maybe he was given it. Who cares? He had the money easily. Why shouldn't he then have a Mercedes? Why shouldn't he have the absolute best in life? No, you know, why not? He's got it. It doesn't hurt anybody. Let him spend it. That's his choice. But you were a fraud. Then, the day you got out of that car, there is really very few other symbols, more than a Mercedes, that represents money. Isn't that true? I mean, as life goes on, obviously the BMW and other things have come in, but years ago, the Mercedes, if you drove a Mercedes, wow, you had serious money. Those who were okay drove Cadillacs. But when we started a move years ago from American cars into foreign cars, and somebody drove a Mercedes, that person was not joking around. That person had serious money.
It was the Jaguar that he got after that.
After that. And then it was the Jaguar. And then it was all those European symbols that were another continent that we were bringing here that represented we were more than just Americans. We were very wealthy. And you were a fraud. You didn't want anybody to know that. Why wouldn't you think that today? Hey, do you have money, Mark?
No, I feel like I'm totally dominated by my past credit card debt and
All right.
very little in savings. And,
And are you going to inherit money?
probably not.
And is that because he spent it all? Or he doesn't like Barbara? No, just joking.
No. It has to do with circumstances later.
That happened between the two of you.
No.
But he lost his money.
Basically.
Thank you. All right. So again, and did your father, when he lost his money, did he hide the fact that he lost it from everybody, or does everybody still think that he was fine?
Oh, he hid it, and he told me to hide it as well.
All right. Bingo. Bingo. Why does Mark think that his fare is going to be a fraud? Not only was it that this memory of getting out of the car, but later on in life when you were an adult, we now have his father, who he probably looked up to, who had money, lost it, and now we have to be a fraud and pretend that we have it. Why wouldn't you think that? And why would you even want money? Of course you would want a negative balance. Of course you would want credit card debt, because if you had money and you lost it, you would be a fraud. And it is easier simply, Mark, just not to have any money, to let people know that you have credit card debt, that you don't have any money, than to even think about being a fraud. How many of your friends know that you have credit card debt?
Oh, most of them.
Good.
I tell everybody. I mean,
Right?
I don't know.
Do you see that? He feels comfortable in telling people that he himself has credit card debt to make up for the fact that his father has played this fraud out on everybody. So how Mark does it is he takes the opposite thing. He has credit card debt. He's not going to deal with money. He doesn't want it because he's going to be a fraud. You can be real with money. You can have money. And you don't have to spend it the way that he did.
Yeah.
And you don't have to block it from coming in. And if it came in and if it went, so what? So what? You will still eat the next day, you will breathe. Money doesn't define you, you define your money. You see, your father let his money define him. And when he lost his money, there was nothing to define him anymore because he was not his money. He had nothing anymore, so therefore he was nothing. He is nothing. Mark, you define your money. You are Mark with money. You are Mark without money. You know, you are a loving, caring human being, solid. You are one, regardless of what you have in your bank accounts. So you have to define it. As soon as it defines you, that's what happens when you don't want to open up, Diane and Pamela, your statements, because you think it's more than you again. You are more than your money. You always have been. You always will be. You simply forgot. And isn't it interesting that all of us have chosen to remember our memories that have kept us down more so than the memories that have made us whole? You know, I always say the hardest thing in life to do is to simply remember. Remember who we truly are. And Mark, I mean, I don't know you, but I mean, you see, he seems like a nice man, doesn't he? Like, you know, Barbara seems very intelligent. She lives with him, you know?
But that's part of my thing is, I just don't deal with money. I will deal with being authentic and such a great guy with people.
Yes.
See that, and then, because if I were to deal with money and not deal with other parts of myself, then that would be really shallow, and that would be, then I'm just thinking about myself and my money, and that's all I care about.
No.
And I don't want
Yeah.
to let people know that.
And how many of people think that? You know the paradigms that we carry with us? Have we not all heard money is the root of all evil? Have you ever remembered your first money memory? You were probably crawling around on the ground. You found $1. You put it in your mouth. And your mother said to you, and it was your mother, not your father, Mark, don't touch it, it's dirty. You used to put dirt in your mouth, didn't you? And your mother never said it's dirty. She used to just say, get that out of your mouth. Money is not dirty. Money is extraordinary. Extraordinary, what it can do for you, what it can do for others. I mean, look at Oprah. I'm very serious. How extraordinary it is what this woman has done with money. You know, the lives that she's touching, the things that she can do. It's an extraordinary thing when you have it. And later on, I'll tell you stories about how I had it, how I lost it, why I had to lose it. And later on, we're going to learn about the ebb and the flow of the money cycle, why everything happens for the best, why it was such a blessing that your father lost his money. Such a blessing. But you have to get there. But you are far more than your money, Mark. And I got news, until you deal with this, you'll never truly be able to have a relationship with Barbara, because you're always bringing less than to the table. Always. So it doesn't surprise me to say, you can't get married. You can't. Because Mark isn't present to get married. So, here we are. Barbara and Mark are living together. And how do you think that your fears that you're bringing into this also affect the relationship that the two of you have?
It's hard to tell. A part of it is I'm looking back and thinking I'm going to be just like my mom, or I'm going to be paying the bills, and taking care of the children, he's going to buy luxury items. I mean, that's definitely one of the fears.
Right. So think about who Barbara has chosen to live with. Barbara's father bought planes, sailboats, but denied her her college education. Mark's father, not Mark, but Mark's father did the exact same thing. And then Mark's father lost it. So here you are, the two of you together, and you may not even have an understanding of how much money and these money memories have played as to why maybe you're afraid to really merge, or what's keeping you together or apart or whatever. But can all of you see the similarities there? And Mark, whatever happened to your mother? Are they married?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And does she pretend?
No, not as, no. She kind of depended upon my father. And now she's went out and she got a job.
And isn't
And
that
is-
what your mother has done all along?
Well, she's worked all along.
All along.
Yeah.
She had control. She kind of did it. And the two of you have kind of chosen each other the way your parents did. Do you see that at all, Mark?
I'm trying, no,
You're living with a woman who is in control, who is doing it herself,
right,
just like your mother is. She's chosen a man whose father spent just like her father did.
right, okay.
But the difference is the two of you are aware of it now. So look at each other for who you are today in present tense, and not the memories of others that you're carrying with you who have instilled those fears in you. Miss Patricia, you knew we had to come back to Miss Patricia,
I'm so sorry about this.
who has a cold,
My
so that's
fear.
fine. So just to be reminded, right,
Yes.
that Patricia's memory is that when her parents were divorced, that there was no money, that Dad kept it all. What is your greatest fear, Patricia?
Probably my greatest fear right at this time is that my husband is reminding me of my father. Not at all concerned about retirement. Oh, I'll just work, we'll always have money, and spends his money on airplanes, flying. That's
What are
his-
we going to do with these airplanes and these boy toys? Can we
But
all decide?
I feel as though I'm spending all my income, and I do pretty well, but I'm always giving mine away or towards the home. I don't see it as an equal partnership in the money area, and I have a little resentment about it.
What does that mean, you're always giving it away?
Well, I just got my 1099 and realized about a good deal, a third of my income, I can't even account for. It's just spending it, taking people out, going places, friends, and I do that probably to get approval.
All right, so again, do we see the connection between your money memory? Do you see it, Patricia?
I do. I see it especially with my husband and my father.
Right. But what's interesting is that you said these exact words, that there was no money for you, that your dad kept it all. So since there was no money for Patricia, why shouldn't she take a third of her 1099 and not know what she did with it? There wasn't any for you. He kept it. It was somebody else's. It wasn't yours. You didn't have control over it. You didn't have to account for it. In fact, it brought you such pain. Why wouldn't you want to get rid of your money? That money, keeping it, brought you pain because it reminded you how he had it all. And now she's married to a man who's doing essentially what her father did. Why are you married to that man?
Well, he's the opposite of me. He's got all the great qualities. That's the only thing in our relationship where we're not in agreement. He's coming around, he said, but
All right, so
I worry he doesn't.
there's no way we can ask the person that we're living with to change his or her behaviors about money when we ourselves don't understand why it is that we don't do that which we should do with money ourselves. How can you, Patricia, talk to your husband about what he should do with money and how he should change?
Absolutely right, I can't.
You cannot, because you are not doing it from a solid foundation. You are not doing it from the pyramid on the dollar bill. You are doing it from a crumbling foundation that every time you build on it will just crumble. It's like the houses that are here in Marin now and in Oakland. Those that were not built on a solid foundation, are they not being washed away by the natural elements? They are falling down the cliffs. They are not lasting. Those that had a solid foundation and were built on solid ground are getting wet, but they're standing. They stood before, they'll stand again. You can't build a relationship with another person, not one of you in this room, and expect it to succeed if you don't have a solid financial foundation yourself. You can't ask others to change. I would love to come back to you in a year from now to see, Mark and Barbara, how your relationship has changed. Because money, as all of us are starting to see, is really at the root cause of many of our unhappinesses. Not just about not having enough money, don't open my bank statement. It's a direct correlation to how we feel about ourselves and treat ourselves. Patricia, you can keep it all. You owe it to yourself to not duplicate what you've done. And it's not right for your husband to simply say, I'll get around to it, I'm doing it. Nope. Do it now. So now what I want to do is give you a special message to those of you who are in a marriage or in a partnership. For I have to tell you, if you really are going to reach financial freedom and you're married or you're living with somebody, you have to do it together. Now, yes, of course, it's possible for you to do it on your own. But if you do it on your own and the person that you're living with isn't also financially free, I'm telling you, somewhere down the road, you are going to have trouble. What I want you to do is I want you to see if the person you're living with will share these experiences with you. I want your relationship to go to an entirely different level. And if you both make a commitment to do these exercises together, to recall your money memories and your fears and your connections together, not only will your money come together, but your relationship will take on a whole new added dimension. Now, many of you aren't going to be able to convince your partner or your mate to do this program with you. And if that's the case, fine, let it be, don't sweat it. Because it's more important that you get what you deserve out of life than trying to convince somebody else to do so as well. So I want you then to take responsibility and do what you need to take control of your money and start appreciating the true gifts of this program. But I want you to continue to encourage your partner to see if he or she will do it with you. If not today, maybe tomorrow. If not tomorrow, maybe months from now. But save these tapes, save these exercises for one day when they see how you changed, how you have financial freedom. Maybe by your example, they'll start doing it as well. So now we've come to the close of step 2 of your financial freedom program. And I want to ask you, how are you doing? Are you holding up? Are you there with me? Have you had any revelations yet? These are 2 of the most important steps in this entire process. And for many of you, little things are going to start to be revealed that have tremendous impact on your life today. Hopefully, a lot of you are a lot clearer about how your money behavior today is being influenced by your money memories from the past. Did you ever think that was true? Many of you I know truly thought that financial freedom was simply about dealing with money, how to invest it, how to follow it, how to keep track of it. But you now start to understand how financial freedom starts at the beginning of your life, how your money memories truly can change what you do with money today. So now that you've identified your money memory, your present-day fears, and the connection between these two, the next step involves replacing your old negative mental patterns with new positive ones. And that's the key to our next step, which is called get what you really want. You can do it, and you will do it. Let's go on.